this FMA technique is not for most sports martial arts. The thing is that knife play or knife work in Filipino martial arts is too dangerous, and most mainstream martial arts don't really understand the use of the knife. The thing is that true combat martial arts, like Filipino martial arts, is used in military martial arts, is something that combat sports doesn't really understand. And the thing is, I want to show you why this is the most powerful grip that you can use in a knife fight. Whenever we're looking at the use of the knife, we have to think about its advantages. There's always a force multiplier when we bring in a tool. So a bat, obviously more mass, more reach, potentially more damage, right? But in the end, someone who's very skilled with kicking can produce the same amount of damage with your leg. Punching, similarly, if you're very well trained in punching, you can create a whole bunch of damage, but it takes more skill. So there's ease of use, and then there's that force multiplier. But beyond those things, it's range. Range is the first advantage that we teach in the United System of Eskrima. And whenever we're talking about knife work, we have to come in with this first thought. So all of the knife tapping, tapi-tapi, trapping, checking, hubad-lubad, bud-labud, all those drills are for a particular range and segment of what would be typically part of a fight for skilled people. Because if we look at actual street fights involving knives, we see very dangerous exchanges, but the skills that are being used are not all that much. They're really not a high demand that. You'll see like some fights, they pretty much just do this here. Maybe there's a bit of dancing around. So what we're talking about here is something that's much more skillful. But in Filipino martial arts, at least in the United System of Eskrima, we're going to couch everything from this point of view. And this where if he attacks, I can defend. I can evade and I can cut, which we call Filipino martial arts defanging the snake. The other side of it is if I attack and he goes to defend, I can immediately cut his defense, right? So all of the trapping and all of the striking has to be thought of from this point of view first, right? So we could do like a drill, like we could do 5-2 drill, right? So if we can come through here and we're doing this drill here, and it's a great drill here for us to do here to practice cutting and defending. But this is because I've already engaged in this range. But there's this range that we have to bridge first, and there's this range where things start to actually start. And so each portion of the range that we're working with has a different set of skills and tactics that are used. And the thing is that we have to think about out of range, threat range, which is not real range, and then effective range. And then from effective range, are we just cutting and evading and doing simple blocks and parries? And in which case, if I go out here to attack and he puts something out there, I can cut that. And if he goes to attack me, I can cut that, right? That's where we have to get to before we even get to trap. So as you look over my shoulder here, we're gonna do an elastico evasion drill just to kind of drive the point home a little bit more, right? So as he's striking, I can evade and then he can do this here. So this is a drill that we utilize to focus more on body angulation than footwork and angle recognition and attack. Now, you can see that, don't move, Patrick, just stay there. I'm in threat range, I'm in effective range. So threat range is like he thinks I can hit him. Effective range, I can actually hit him, right? And so we want to utilize those two perceptions, those two realities. One is his perceived threat, the other is the actual threat itself, right? So even when he evades back right here, I still can reach him, right? Evade back further, right? I still can reach him, right? Now, this is one of the reasons why this grip is much better than this grip. Because now, no matter what, I keep leaning, he can still kind of lean out of there. I can kind of get him, especially if I go lower, but he's still deeply in range. That's why a tool like this is kind of silly at this range. I'm going to have to go deep into his range, into his effective combat range, deep into the deadly space to utilize this tool. Whereas this tool gives us much more powerful effectiveness while maintaining safe, because we can work our ranges and we have a lot of deep range or reach out of that. And we're talking about a difference about 3 or 4 inches in terms of reach, which is going to be really important for us. Here, when I go through this, I just can't reach him unless I go to where he's not moving at all. So this is something that's really important for us to notice between like what would be considered an earth grip and this grip here versus what we would consider a heaven grip, which is the more powerful grip in terms of range advantage. So what we see here is a basic pairing and stuff like that, but I can also come through here and trap here and move this way here. But These are important skills that we need to work on, but the key isn't just the skills, it's the range, how I can use range as an advantage over my opponent here. As I bridge gap and come back out, move it in trap and come through and then come back out and disarm it. Most people, when they consider knife fighting, whether it's going to be for knife sparring events, which we see in Filipino martial arts tournaments, or actual use of knife fighting, right, or knife skills, they get it wrong. They go for the more intimidating grip. They go for what they think is going to be a more of a power advantage. And while I might have that power advantage, bridging that gap where the other person has a significant reach advantage is going to be something that's the last deciding factor. There's a number of fights over the last few years that we've seen on social media and posted on YouTube where someone's using this grip and there's a lot of power there, but it was mostly about the range and timing that got the advantage over that power in and of itself, right? Simple attacks and things like that, right? To the effect that this is a quick attack is so difficult to perceive in some cases that the advantage plus the use of the knife being foreign to the other person created this huge advantage that starts with range. I want to show you an effective way to easily defend against virtually any knife attack with a knife with this one simple grip. Now, here's the thing. I want to make sure that we're working inside our range right here. So we need to be pretty close when we work this exercise that way even with training weapons, we know when we've been struck, right? But the most common attacks, which is the ones I'm going to cover because covering every kind of attack is not within the scope of a single video. But if he's striking me with a 1, this is the most common attack that we'll see. The other one that we see a lot is a swipe across the body, and sometimes we see the thrust. Actually, we see the thrust a lot, right? And we'll get into that and the boogeyman of the thrust and all that stuff. But first, we work on the 1. Pretty much, if I just evade and cut, like we've discussed before, I can cut in almost any direction. I can cut this way, right? I can cut that way. I can move and cut, right? I can step to the side and cut. Pretty much, I can just, as long as I get to move and slash, it's fine. But the thing that you may not notice is that I'm chambered the whole time. So my arm isn't fully extended in any way, shape, or form, which means that I'm not presenting target. And the other thing is that I don't have to retract in order to fire. I'm already chambered so that I'm ready to fire. So should he fire, I can just flick out if I need to. Very, very easy for me to do that. Now, that much force, put your arm out, this much force with a truly sharp blade is enough to get to the bone, right? So I don't need a lot of force. I need accuracy, I need timing, I need range, right? I don't need power for a knife, right? My father would call the knife the ultimate equalizer because it takes someone of lesser build, maybe who seems less physically assuming or threatening, and makes it absolutely threatening once you put a knife in their hand. But that threat is predicated both upon the force multiplier but also the range, because people don't want to get close to something that will hurt them. And so I want to maximize that range advantage. That's what's really important there. Now, interestingly enough, if he switches his grip in the same position here, and so go ahead and go back to heavy grip, please, and go do your cut. Can reach me, right? Go on the other side, right? Can reach me. Give me a 3. Good. Give me a 5. Good. Okay, so now go to the earth grip. Now watch how much he has to move to get to me now. A lot more. No step so that they can see the rest of the body motion. See, all of this has to happen. He can still reach me, but he's having to accommodate the lesser range of this, which means that as he goes to do this, he has to gesture more and have more time to defend against that. Now, this is not trapping range. I understand that, right? But at the same time, he still has to get past this range initially. So whether he attacks or doesn't attack, I get to flick out, I get to cut, I get to evade, and I get to move. And I don't necessarily let him have the range that he wants. That trapping range is quite difficult to get if the other person is in the know. So this is very important for us to think about. So he feeds me the 1, right? I can evade. He feeds me that 3, he'll go that way. He feeds me the 5, you really can't feed a 5, right? So you can do that. So I have a lot of different ways to do that. And simply all I'm doing with this one powerful grip is moving and slashing the offending limb, which is one of the most basic ideas in Filipino martial arts. We skip over it because we like all the trapping and stuff, and that's great for you fanboys out there, but that is not the first place that we should start. And that's not where our skills should be seated, at least in terms of how we view working with a knife in the United system of Eskrima. No one will expect this defensive technique, right? So I'm gonna come here, I'm gonna knife here, so he has to stop. I get this finger lock here and I move this way. That zones the way the other knife and it gives me a free attack. So I'll do it one more time. We're in this position, I get him to trap. and then I'm immediately coming through to this position here and cutting here. So when I'm doing this and I'm attacking, he gets to parry, he gets to block, right? He gets to do all those things. He also gets to reach in and trap. And that's, when he does these things, the knife becomes more dangerous because it's much closer, his knife specifically, right? And a lot of people are expecting like a big pucking motion, or in this case, a wiping motion, maybe a counter trap or something like that, a grab release, something really big and powerful to do this. And one of the things they can do is to focus more on subtle ideas here. So what he needs to do to be able to hit me is he needs to be able to rotate into me so that he can have that there. If it's a karambit, or if he goes with earth grip, right, as he rotates into me, you'll notice he had to rotate and bring his shoulder even closer. So I can control this through a finger lock, right? So one of the things that we do here is I'll come through this position here, and I'm just wiping this here and putting this in between us and then rotating him out. So I have to develop, this takes incredible skill to do, but the juice is definitely worth the squeeze here. So if I give him a nice decent attack here, he goes to parry, I just need to be able to time that and then go here. So if I go here, I bring him into rotation, he can reach me with that knife, right? But if I go here, go ahead and reach it, it's much more difficult. He can do it, but I still have my knife free. So I have an advantage for a brief moment. So if he comes to trap me, I might zone and then get that finger lock. If he goes to parry me, I'll press zone and get that finger lock to get out of that range here. Again, we're talking about range being the most important advantage, or the first advantage, right? The other thing is he can block me. So I come through here like this and he blocks, in which case I'm coming through here, moving this way here, and then attempting to get a free attack, right? And that's kind of the point of finger locks, and when you're thinking about that, anytime someone wants to do that, the natural inclination is for us to end up in these kinds of positions here, right? And I'm over here, and we're doing different kinds of grabbing motions here. So how do we address that? So we can do a number of things, but one of the things that's much more subtle is, say we're in this position here, as he's attacking me, I can just zone away, and then eventually get to the point where I've got a nice finger lock. I only need a brief advantage, maybe cut all those fingers off, or go after him. So the first and most important thing for us is range. A subtle thing like a finger lock can give us all the advantage we need to win the day. This knife grip gives us the greatest advantage in real combat. Now, you might be wondering, like, why this grip? Why not this grip? Why this tool? Why it could be a double-edged knife, a single-edged, but a traditional knife versus, say, a ring knife or a karambit. So if we look at this, moving a little bit closer, Patrick, right? So as he strikes and stuff like that, I have all of these things here. I have a good grip, right? Those are things that are really nice for us. Now the thing is that a technique that we see with karambit is where he might strike and I might cut and then come through here and hook here. So when I do it with this, first of all, you'll notice that unless I do something the rest of my torso, I actually can't reach him. Whereas even with this, which is a much longer knife, I can still reach him. And if I use that standard grip, I really can reach him, right? So, but I could still do the same technique here where I'm cutting through here and coming this way, and I can do that. So I'm not gaining anything particular as far as technique because I can still do this motion here, right? So I'm not gaining anything there, but I am losing the real advantage. Martial arts is the art of risk, conflict, and advantage. I have a conflict, I calculate a risk, and I seek an advantage. Here, I don't gain a lot of advantage. I actually lose advantage by going to the karambit as opposed to working straight with a regular knife. So he comes in, he strikes here, and I'm coming to this position here, and I can do the same technique that I would do with a karambit, I can do with a standard knife with a standard grip. Now, the other side of this is that, sure, I could also do it the earth side. So I come through here, and maybe I come this way here, and I come that way, right? Well, I can do the same thing with a karambit too. But again, I'm losing that reach. That means I need to lean in. And every time I lean into his range. I'm going deeper into waters that I don't even need to cross into unless I have something fancy that makes me feel more intimidating, but is really just a psychological advantage. And against someone else who's willing to fight, that advantage is minimal at best. So as we do this drill here, and we work on this, we're parrying and we're blocking, but the reality is the one advantage that we need to seek as martial artists in knife defense is range. That is the most important thing. So our grip and our technique, our footwork movement, everything revolves around being able to assert a particular range where I'm close enough to defend, far enough to attack, or rather close enough to attack, near enough to defend, controlling all those things. Because if I get to the right point, I can reach him and he can't even reach me right there. So it's mastering that position, mastering that so that we seek the advantage of range. So when we look at a drill and we come through here and we start to bring this through here and we're starting to defend and we're working on this and we need to get an advantage, but we've gotten to close quarters here, what I want to do is be able to immediately get to a position where he's off position. His geometry makes it so it's difficult for him to reach with the other hand, and I can continue to attack. That's going to take an incredible amount of skill and timing, but the value of that is the advantage, and the advantage is range. If you are seeking deeper knowledge in the Filipino martial arts and you want to learn more, like, comment, share, tap that bell for the notifications. Make sure you take a look at the link in the description, click on that, and check out our link on our bio.